Let's hope my phone doesn't fall. But hey everyone, I'm in the car right now and I was just thinking about something. We control our reactions to situations that arise. And it's like ultimately when you're being placed in a test, as I said before, if your reaction to your situation doesn't change, then you're not going to move forward. You're not going to elevate. You're going to be stuck in a cycle. You're going to be stuck in a situation. You're going to be stuck in a circumstance. And it's like, I just realized that it's like we control our reaction, but sometimes we don't actually think before we do things. We don't play things out. We're so heated. And you got to get to the point where you realize when you become in different circumstances, whether it's a circumstance or a situation that is heartbreaking, whether you lose somebody, whatever type of situation it is, that very reaction to anything in your life that is out of order is whatever is an area that is under attack. For instance, if every reaction you give off to situations that aren't pleasing to you is anger, then that's something that you have to get out of your system. You have to get out of your spirit. Don't be a person that just, because it's intoxicating for one, but just don't be a person that doesn't care about what you have on the inside of you. Don't be a person that is okay to just place and put anything inside of your spirit and let it resonate inside of you. Like, don't be okay with doing that. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel uncomfortable, especially if you're a person who reacts to every single thing and you feel like you have to tell people like it is and just be just straight up like, okay, this is how I feel. So we got to learn to hold our tongue sometimes. Stand for yourself, as I always say. Push against the odds. Don't be a person that just goes with the flow, which is something I say, but we also have to pick and choose what type of things we're reacting to. Because I got to a point in my life, I'm like, look, I used to say if it's not gonna matter in 10 years from now, I won't even indulge myself into it. But 5 years, if it's not gonna matter within a week, then it's something that you should not dwell on. We dwell on things too much, creating situations and making things worse for ourselves, because the type of things that we dwell on are mostly things that we don't have control over. But if we just try to release that control for a second, think about how we're getting ourselves into situations. Think about what is the appropriate response, because sometimes a lot of things that people do isn't necessary. Understanding the reasons that people have for the things they do isn't necessary and it's not important, because like I said before, a lot of it doesn't have to do with us. But if you find yourself, you're trying to grow, but every time it's like you're reacting to things. And the thing is, those things are going to get worse. Those things are going to get harder, because you have to be able to push yourself. It's a test. You have to be able to push yourself past. And it's going to seem even harder because you're trying so hard to elevate. But what we don't realize is that when we react to these situations, and when we give a negative reaction to every situation in our life, we're dropping ourselves down. We're not going back up. So it's going to be a lot harder to get back up. It's going to seem like, okay, you've been completely, like you hit rock bottom, but you haven't. And I'm here to tell you that you haven't hit rock bottom. You haven't. God is still holding on to you. But we have to understand, pray for these things, pray through these things. And think before you speak. Think before you speak something we've been told since we were children. But is it something that we actually do? Because I feel like we pick and choose what things we want to think about before we do. And then we like to think about it afterwards and then try to justify. If you have to justify something, then I feel like it's something that shouldn't be done. Because if anything that you do, if you're defending yourself, standing up for yourself, that's one thing. But anything that you do that you feel like, okay, you have to prove and make a point and make people understand why you did it, you don't need to do it. And if it was something you were supposed to do, you wasn't ready for it. And that just goes with anything in general. That has nothing to do with just negative reactions. If God gives you an assignment, you feel like you got to justify that assignment with the rest of the world and prove why you're good enough for it, I'm sorry, but you're not ready for it. Because when God puts you in a position, you have to be ready for it. You have to prepare for it and know that this is for you, and not let the rest of the world try to tell you and try to shape you when God is doing that himself. So I just had to come on here very briefly and just say, think about how you're reacting to situations. Think about that emotion, whatever that energy and spirit is, and know that right there is something, and that's an area that in your life that is under attack that you want to get under control. It's not easy, because the closer and the higher you get up and the closer you get to God, things are going to be hard. And I feel like that's something I've said before, as far as like we have that misconception of that the closer we get to God, the easier it's going to be. No, the harder it's going to be. The more tests will come your way. Why? Because when you move up, you elevate more. You have so I'm coming back. My camera kind of went out. So like I was saying, just like a job, like jobs have requirements and stuff, okay? And as we know, God can make arrangements for us and fulfill us with things that we don't even know we have within us. But I'm here to say that when you elevate, if you don't think there's requirements for you to fulfill that position God has for you, then you're thinking the wrong thing, because there is. So that's what makes it harder, because the higher you get up, it's just not going to become easier. There's more work that has to be done. There's more work that has to be done. We're always going to be reshaping and molding ourselves to be closer to God. It's an ongoing process, and it's a beautiful process just to watch yourself shape and change. Start to fall in love with the process. We're so worried about the end results. Love that process. Love on that process. Because when you love on that process, you begin to love on yourself. You begin to find out who you are and what you are and what are you actually here for. But ultimately, we have to work on our reactions to things. We cannot allow the enemy to attack us by emotions, by circumstances, because the enemy, I promise you, it's going to be the same type of situations you get yourself in. And you're wondering why, okay, every single time I'm in this situation, I always react the same way. Adjust your mindset, because I promise you, it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be easy to do. It's not easy to turn your back on something you've been doing for years. It's not easy, but you have to. That little pain, I'm telling you, that little pain that you have, the more you shift, is going to become a habit. Once you create that habit of turning your back on things that's not of God, turning your back on anger, turning your back on depression, anxiety, turning your back on all these things. When I talk about depression, anxiety, and things like that, before I go any further, I'm speaking on emotions that arise during a circumstance. I'm not talking about anything medical. I'm not dwelling into that, because I do believe that people do need assistance. People need to talk with people about things. But what I'm saying is that type of anxiety that you get when you can't control a situation, the type of anxiety you start to feel when you want to go right, but God is telling you left, and just right looks so much better. That's the type of anxiety I'm talking about, because we get anxious about things we don't control. Why? Because we don't understand and we don't know the end results. And that's not God's responsibility to give it to us. Our responsibility is to simply trust that process. Trust everything that God is instilling in us. But in order for us to do that, we have to grow up a little bit. We have to fix ourselves. Those reactions, those negative responses to things, we got to stop doing, because it's not a healthy habit and it's not good. Yes, it hurts to just close your mouth when somebody is trying to tell you something. It do hurt for somebody to talk down on you and you to turn the other cheek. Sometimes that hurts. It hurts because when you have a broken person that has never had anyone that defends them, or feels like they are all alone in this world, they become the most defensive people. So they feel like they lose themselves when they have to turn away. They feel like all odds are against them. But I'm here to tell you that God is with you. Stop worrying about how people react to things. Let God take care of that. If God has put you in a place, don't worry about what nobody else is doing. Worry about what God has given you. That's all I'm here to say. Just worry about what God has given you and understand that God will take care of the rest. We have to stop trying to take care of everything. Oh, well, this person feels this way, I'm going to try to change their mind. No. God's responsibility. The situation you get into, people treat you bad and treat you poorly. It's not your responsibility to dish out karma. It's not your responsibility to run your mouth and gossip and do those type of things to hurt somebody that has hurt you. Don't do that. And if that is you, work on yourself. Work on yourself so you can be ready to elevate, or you're just going to be stuck in that cycle. You're going to be stuck in that cycle and you're going to become bitter. And we all know what happens to bitter people. We all know what happens to miserable people. And I don't want us to be those people. I want us to be those people of God that walk accordingly and understand that we're not perfect. Understand that we're imperfect people growing, and start to love that process. Hope you enjoyed this little short video. I'm in the parking lot of a grocery store right now, so yeah, I'm going to end this right now. Somebody just pulled up beside me, but honestly, I'm not even worried. If anything was to come on my spirit, I probably would continue to talk, because that's how bold I am in this walk with God. But I hope you all have a blessed day, and I hope you got something out of this message. Thank you.